I hope you're okay. So, Merab, I hope you're able to hear me.
Yes.
Okay. Alvin, I think we've already talked to him, so I think he's also able to hear me. So today I want us to go through the effects of HIV and AIDS in different sectors here in Kenya as well as in the whole world. And HIV have affected or continue to affect a lot of sectors in our world or in Kenya. And these sectors includes, we have mortality trends. It affected mortality trend, and not only mortality trend, but we also have morbidity trends. Mortality is the rate of death in a place or in a population, while morbidity is the rate of diseases. So diseases or opportunistic infection have been on rise because of this HIV infection, as well as mortality rate has also been on a rise. So we also have other sectors being affected, such as health sector. We also have food security. We also have education sector. We also have economic sectors. So there are many sectors that have been affected by HIV and AIDS in one way or another. So we'll start with demographic impact or effect of HIV and AIDS. And what is demography? These demography, you can term it as the characteristics of a population. And characteristics of a population includes the gender, the number of people in a place or in a population, the culture of the population. So those characteristics is what we call the demographic characteristics. So more than 60 million people have been infected with HIV since epidemic began. So as you can see, we have a lot of people being affected or infected each and every day. So for example, in USA, we have a lot of infection. We have a lot of, not only USA, sorry, we have infection in Africa, infection in other continents, and infection have been on spread because of the movement of people from one continent to the other. So nowadays, the world is like a global village where you're able to move from one country to the other, even in ours. So more than, we have a lot of people being infected by this HIV, and not only infection, we also have deaths that are happening each and every hour in each and every continent or in each and every country. So HIV is now the leading cause of death in sub-Saharan Africa, where we belong, and is the fourth highest global killer. It is the fourth in the category. It's number 4 among the many the diseases that normally kill a lot of people. So HIV, as you can see, is a very challenging disease to deal with. So the average life expectancy in sub-Saharan Africa is now 47, compared with an estimated 62 years without AIDS. So if you have AIDS, or the people that normally have this AIDS, their life expectancy or the number of years which they can live is 47 years, as compared to those who do not have the AIDS, which is at 62. But of course, other factors must play part. But that's the fact. So since this HIV and AIDS normally exposes you to a lot of this infection or opportunistic infection, it's highly likely that this life expectancy is made shorter by this HIV and AIDS. In high prevalence areas, like life expectancy has decreased severely. So we have you will find this 47 going down. For example, in areas that we don't have hospitals, the areas is marginalized such that they do not have roads, they do not have enough food, they have a lot of issues. So this HIV will come in and make the situation worse, because these individuals need an optimal level of living, where they have food, they have drugs, they have they're supposed to have access to health facilities, access to a lot of things. So, but when we are in the marginalized areas or in the rural areas where we don't have enough facilities, this life expectancy goes down because of these other severe status of these areas. So in addition, of 55 million deaths are projected in sub-Saharan Africa between the year of 2000 and 2022 as a result of AIDS. 39% more than would be expected without AIDS. This is according to UNAIDS in 2002, or an organization that deal with or UN that the Department of UN that normally deal with AIDS. So we have more projection of deaths, and deaths have been occurring at a high number because of this HIV and AIDS. So the impact of HIV on mortality among children between the ages of 1 to 5 has been even stronger. So we have still stronger we still have issues already. Before even you deal with HIV, already in sub-Saharan Africa, children have been dying at a very fast rate, and these children is between the age of 1 year to 5 years. You can just say below 5 years, in exclusive of HIV. So when HIV comes in, the situation is made worse because this HIV comes with a lot of other infection. And when this infection, as well as depreciated immunity, attacks these children below 5 years whose immunity is already not mature, deaths definitely will increase, or normally increases between the ages of 1 to 5 years. We also have the ages above 60 years. Above 60 years, the immunity have already started to depreciate. So once a person below above 60 years get HIV infection, because of the already low immunity, and the AIDS now coming to lower the immunity which is already low, so a lot of also deaths might occur above 60, or in above 60 years individual, or among the above 60 years individual, the very old. So in 7 countries in the region, under 5 mortality has increased by 20 to 40%. That is between 2000 and 2022, where we are currently are. So due to this infection, there is a lot of deaths, especially in children. Although these have been counteracted because of the interventions that have been made on prevention of maternal infections or transmission of the mother to the unborn child infections. So all these interventions also help in some way to prevent this maternal mortality between 1 year to 5 years. But still, this mortality is still high, or this rate of death is still high, because these children do not have optimal immunity or strong immunity. Another effect of this HIV, I just want to summarize what I've been saying here. This HIV this infection have really increased the number of deaths in sub-Saharan Africa, and this have been made worse because of the pathetic situation of some of the regions where we have marginalized region that do not have enough services, that do not have enough roads, that do not have enough food. To find food is very tricky. To find health facilities also very tricky. The mode of living of these individuals is already tricky. So HIV will come and worsen the situation, and that's what that is causing a lot of deaths in those areas. We also have a lot of deaths in between 1 year to 5 years children that is have been contributed by this HIV and AIDS. So still, these HIV and AIDS have been affecting these below 5 years children because of the already immature immunity, and the HIV making it worse for them to overcome the infections. Then let's see the impact of HIV on food security. So HIV is a potentially significant threat to food security and nutrition. So what is food security? Food security is availability, accessibility, sustainability, and you able to use that food. So food can be available, but the way you're using that food is not effective. Food can be available, but you don't have money to buy. So food has to be accessible through money and through farming. Food must be available through production, and also you're able to access, or you're able to find that food. For example, if food is available in a market, but there are no roads to take you from where you are to those markets, you'll not be able to have that food, or you'll not be able to access that food. So still food must be available, must be accessible, and that food must be available all through. It's not like you're supposed to have food, a lot of food in January, and then in May you don't have food. You're not secure if the food is not, or food availability is not sustainable. So food must be sustainable, or must be adequately be available all through. Food must be available in terms of production, in terms of be able to access wherever they are. Then food must be accessible in terms of you're able to buy that food if at all you don't produce. Another thing, you must utilize that food effectively in terms of you're healthy, you're able to eat that food well, because when you're sick, you're not able to consume food as it's supposed to be. If, for example, you overcook vegetables, you're just eating fiber, you're not eating the need the nutrients from that vegetable. So you must be able to utilize that food well. You must be able to access that food. You must be able to, the food must be available, and those three must be there all through. That is food sustainability. So HIV has potentially and significantly affected both food security and nutrition, because once you have a lot of infections in you, this opportunistic infection, you're not able to consume enough food because of the disease, because you are diarrheaing, you are vomiting, you have issues with your stomach, you have issues with the whole body, so you're not able to consume enough food. That will affect definitely the nutrition. And also when you're diarrheaing, you're losing a lot of nutrients from you. When you're vomiting, you're losing a lot of nutrients. And those two symptoms are very prevalent, or are very available in people living with HIV and AIDS. So these two will be affected significantly by HIV and AIDS. For example, if the mother and the father in the homestead, who are the breadwinner to their children, is sick, will they be able to go and farm in the farms? No. Will they go to work? No. So they will not have money to access that food. They will also not be able to produce that food. So food will not be available, food will not be accessible. And another thing, they might have food in sometimes, and the other times they do not have food. So that food will not be sustainable. So all these will affect the availability of food, the accessibility of food, as well as the sustainability of food, and also utilization of food, because already they're sick. So food production will be lowered by HIV and AIDS. Food consumption will also be lowered by HIV and AIDS. Agricultural work in our villages will not be as it's supposed to be. And when they do not have enough food production in our farms, we will not have enough food for the other people who are working in the urban areas. And what will result to that? Will result to importing food. What is the implication of that to the entire country? So as you can see, it will affect the family level, it will affect the community level, it will affect even at the national level. So food product consumption may drop because of the illness and death of production of productive household members. So food consumption at the level of the family will decrease because of the illness of these productive members of the household for both the members as well as that person who is already ill. A study in Tanzania found that per capita food consumption decreased by 15% after the death of an adult in the poorest household. So as you can see, study has already also shown that the amount of food each and every person consumes in a homestead will decrease at a 15% after the death of that person who normally produce or who normally provide food, especially for the poorest households in Tanzania. So reduction in agricultural work also occur, or even abandonment of farms is likely to happen. With fewer people, households farm smaller plots of land or resort to less labor-intensive subsistence crop, which often lower nutritional or market value. So there will be both reduction or less food being produced in our farms when we don't have enough people to farm those farms, or when these productive individuals have already been sickened or have already been sick, or they are fallen ill because of these diseases or this opportunistic infection, there'll be a reduction in agricultural production, where people may even abandon those farms. And another thing, whatever that they are producing, they are not able to produce quality foods because they will not have enough fertilizers, they will not have enough people to go and farm or cultivate those crops. So you find the crop being produced by majority of those homesteads being of subsistence use or used by the family, and there is of low nutritional value because there is no one to take care of these crops. So both production will go down, and also the quality of the food being produced is also low because the food cultivation of the food, the farm cultivation, as well as the use of fertilizers, use of hybrid seeds will not be used. Then we have impact on the health sector. Imagine where we have a lot of people going to hospitals because of these opportunistic infections. And remember, right now in our country, for example, we don't have enough facilities. And in those less or inadequate facilities, we have inadequate healthcare workers. Number one, we don't have enough facility. And number one, those inadequate health facility already are lacking enough health workers. So if you don't have enough health workers, and you are receiving a lot of patients coming to seek for health services from those health facilities, will have a lot of burden on these already overworked health facilities as well as health workers. So number one, will not have enough adequate services, you'll not have enough drugs to take care of these patients, will not have even enough health workers to take care of these already ill patients. And another thing, because of less health facilities, especially in Africa, people will only be admitted when they have already gone to the full-blown stage or the AIDS stage, at the last stages. So you'll find people deteriorating to the full-blown, where else, if you had enough health facilities, people would have been prevented from getting into the worst conditions or into AIDS if we had enough facilities. So that's the situation especially in sub-Saharan Africa. But for the developed countries, you will find less deaths caused by these HIV and AIDS because we have enough facilities, we have enough health facilities, we have qualified and enough health workers. So people will be treated even during the first stages, and they will be prevented from getting into HIV AIDS full blown. But in Kenya, as well as in Africa, you'll find people being admitted only when they have deteriorated. And what is the use of that? So majority of people will die at that point. So health expenditure per capita in USA region is generally low, and the demand of HIV further strain already stretched budgets and system. We also have that in Africa. Already Africa as well as Kenya is using a lot of money to buy ARVs, to employ people that will work with these HIV individuals in CCC clinic or comprehensive care centers. So these people need to be paid. Also, the ARVs need to be also bought. So these have really stretched the health budgets and systems in our country as well as in the whole world. So the kind of strain varies depending on the type of HIV that you're dealing with, varies depending on the level of services, the number of people who seek the services, and the nature of the demand and the capacity to deliver that care. So the level of this pressure on our health facilities as well as in our countries will depend on the following three factors. So number one is the level of services. What kind of services are we offering? What kind of services are we offering these individuals? What number of health facilities do we have? What number of people are going to seek for help in those health facilities? And then the nature of and the demand and the capacity to deliver that care. So do we have capacity in terms of health facilities, in terms of equipment, in terms of health workers? Do we really have that capacity? Then what number of people is going to seek for health services in these in these health facilities? What level of services do we offer these individuals? So these three factors will determine the amount of strain or the amount of pressure this HIV and AIDS is putting on our health sector. But in Kenya, what is the situation in Kenya? The level of services is very poor because you don't have enough facilities, we don't have enough workers, we don't have enough even equipment to look after these individuals. When it comes to the number of people, we have a lot of individuals suffering from these HIV infections. Another thing is that we don't have enough facilities. You will find, for example, in our rural areas, you only find one health facility which is servicing the entire, maybe 3 wards. So we have a lot of pressure. So in Kenya, that's the and that's why we have a lot of strain. We have a lot of pressure in our county hospitals, and that's why I think that's why people in the county hospitals are very rude, because already they have a lot of pressure on them. They have a lot of people to take care of. So that's why you find sometimes it's good to understand some of these nurses who are very rude, because they have a lot of pressure on them. Go to the maternity wards, go to the entire wards, you'll find only one nurse taking care of a lot of people. So due to this pressure, the services are very poor. We have a lot of people going to seek health services in one health facility because already we don't have enough capacity. So during early HIV infection, the demand is mostly for primary care and outpatient services. As the infection progresses to AIDS, demand for hospitalization increases. And since we don't have enough beds, shortages of beds tend to lead to admission of HIV patients only at the later stage of the disease, limiting the chances of survival. So you'll find majority of people being admitted to hospitals with HIV infection already having a lot of issues. You'll find someone in the wards. I don't know whether you visited someone in the wards with HIV. You'll find the ones that are in the wards or that have been admitted having meningitis, having TB, having pneumonia, and all those three is infecting one individual, tell me the chances of survival. So the chances of survival is very minimal because this individual was only admitted at the later stage. So you'll find this increasing or causing a lot of issues in the health sector because we don't have enough facility. So aside from the increased demand for hospitalization, the increased patient load and the toll the epidemic takes on health workers leads to staff shortages and staff burnout. Because of the many people being infected each and every day and having a lot of these issues that needs hospitalization, there is increased health burnout or health workload or health staff workload, and this due to this the services or the quality of services being given by these health workers who are already overworked is very poor. Then the complex nature of some of the opportunistic infections associated with HIV and AIDS demand more time and money spent on diagnosis and investigating cases. Take an example of meningitis, which is a very severe infection that is associated with majority of these individuals. For instance, TB. Take, for instance, pneumonia, because those three, majority of people normally suffers from those three at the full-blown stages. So these three or those type of infection normally needs a lot of time, needs a lot of specialization when it comes to treating as well as diagnosing. TB, you cannot be diagnosed TB in a health facility. They need to take your sputum or whatever they're using to diagnose to a specialized lab. I don't know whether it is. I think it's Cambridge or something. They do not have even that capacity to be able to diagnose you with TB. So we have a lot of complex infection that normally affect these individuals, and this complex infection demands a lot of specialization and a lot of time and expensive machines to diagnose and investigate these cases. Then the demand for hospitalized services such as counseling is also on increase. We still have a lot of demand for counseling among these individuals. So that's the effect of this HIV on health sector. We have a lot of people demanding this, and due to all this, we also need a lot of money in order to cure or not cure, to control, to prevent, and also to sensitize people on how to take care of these individuals at their homes. So due to this, you'll find a lot of pressure at the home level, a lot of pressure on the facility level, a lot of pressure at the community level, a lot of pressure at the national level. So this HIV infection will really affect the wealth status of the entire world. Then another impact is on educational sector. In education sector, number one, a decline in school enrollment is one of the most visible effects of HIV and AIDS. So, number one, when people or when and especially HIV infection is prevalent among the childbearing age group, because those are the ones that are normally highly sexually active. So when you have a lot of people, when you have a lot of those young individuals being infected, this infection normally, number one, decreases fertility, where people don't give much or give birth to a lot of individuals. That's number one cause of low school or the decline in school enrollment. When this infection also affects children below 5 years, majority of them will not go to school because that's not one of their priorities, because what the first priority is their health. When we have a lot of people dying, and especially the childbearing age individuals dying, or the young individuals dying, what is the cause of that to childbearing or fertility level of that country, or the level of people be able to who are able to give birth? So those three factors will cause a decline in school enrollment. Number one, if children are sick due to this HIV infection, there will be less people or less children going to the schools. If individuals who are at childbearing age get sick because of this HIV opportunistic infection, they're not able to give birth as they are supposed to be, because giving birth becomes the last priority at that stage. Then number three, if a lot of them die, what will happen to the people who are able to give birth to this individual, or to children that will later join school? So those three may affect or may cause a decline in the number of people or the number of individuals who are being enrolled in our schools. So research from South Africa showed a 20% drop in the number of pupils enrolling in the first year of primary school in parts of KwaZulu Natal province between 1988 and 2001. So in Central Africa, Republic and Swaziland, school enrollment is reported to have fallen by 20%, by 20% to 35% because of AIDS and orphanhood, with girls the most affected by this HIV and AIDS. When the parents die, the firstborns or the older children in the homestead will turn to become the new mothers and the fathers of the house. And going to school becomes the last priority because they have to take care of the other children. And also orphanhood leads to children becoming street children or street children. And when someone they do not have enough food or they do not have enough support from the community, they'll definitely drop out of school and start to look for their own source of living. So the following factors contribute to the decline in school enrollment. Number one, removal of children from school to care for parents and family members. So if, for example, we have a child who is at class 5 or class 6 and the parents are very sick at their home, so this girl will, or this boy will be forced to drop out of school and take care of their family members. Then when the family or the breadwinner is sick or even have died, there will be no availability of school fees, or they will not be able to afford school fees. And what happens? These individuals just drop out of school if the community or if the relatives are not able to help these individuals. Another thing, AIDS-related infertility and a decline in birth rate is normally prevalent among people at the childbearing age who have AIDS. And another thing is infection of more children who do not survive long enough to go through the years of schooling also causes a drop in or a decline in school enrollment, because once they die or once they have this infection affecting them, they will not be able to go to school at the right time. Abidi, please, I work on this presentation. I don't know what happened. The arrow to go to the next, can't find it. HIV on education. So when it comes to children, not only does HIV means children lose their parents or guardian, but sometimes they lose their childhood as well. Because once the parent dies or the guardian dies, you are now forced to become a grown-up and take care of your siblings or even take care of yourself. So at that time, you lose your childhood. Another thing, as parents and family members become ill, children take on more responsibility to earn on income, produce food, and care of the family members. So they will have a lot of burden on them, and these will affect them in one way or another. So it is harder for these children to access adequate nutrition, basic health care, housing, and clothing. So since they're the one looking for money, looking for food, and remember they're still children, they're not mature enough to handle all this responsibility, they will have inadequate access to good nutrition, to basic health care, to housing, to clothing, and that this might be passed on to the next generation, because you'll find them becoming parents at very young ages, and the poverty being passed on to the next generation if no intervention comes in. Then fewer families have the money to send their children to school, and often both of the parents are HIV positive in Africa. So majority of parents or majority of families in Africa, and especially in Kenya, you rarely find discordant couples or a couple who have the HIV and then partner do not have HIV. Majority of them normally have, the two of them have HIV. And due to that, we have a lot of families having a lot of issues because, or poverty, because the parents or the two parents do not have ability. So because of majority of that effect, where both parents have this infection, so you'll find a lot of people or a lot of families having these issues on children, because when we have one parent being sick and the other is well, at least we'll have a moderate or a more bearable situation when it comes to children. But because majority of our families where HIV infection is present, majority of these family parents, both parents have this infection. So this has resulted that more children have been orphaned by AIDS in Africa than anywhere else. Also, many children will be part of a generation to be raised by their grandparents or left on their own in child-headed household. So you'll find the majority of these children being taken to their grandparents, and when the grandparents are not available, maybe the relatives. And remember, when these children taken to this relative, majority of those relatives normally mistreat them, even child abuse, sexual violence in such cases. So a lot of these children go through a lot of issues in life, which will affect them in one way or another. So as projections of the number of AIDS orphans rise, some call some calls have been had for an increase in institutional care for children. So we have a lot of orphanages. We have a lot of these institutions that normally take care of these orphans. And due to this, we have a lot of demand for help from these orphanages. So this solution is not only expensive, but also detrimental to the children. Remember, you're removing them from their homes to a school, because that is like a school, because they're living with a lot of individuals or with the other children that they're not familiar with. So you're also affecting them in one way or another psychologically. So institutionalization stores up problems for society, which is ill-equipped to cope with an influx of young adults who have not been socialized in the community in which they have to live. So once people get older, or once children become mature from these orphanages, they are normally sent to the community. But remember, they have grown in a situation where they are like a school, where they're not supposed to move from those schools. They're just supposed to live in those orphanages. What happens when you release them to the society? They're not able to socialize well with this society because they're not used to live in such kind of a situation. So there are other alternatives available, however, where for example, in Zimbabwe, they recruit community members to visit orphans in their homes where they live, either with foster parents, grandparents, or other relatives, or in child-headed households. So in Zimbabwe, they have adopted this approach where they normally visit those homes. The relatives normally visit those homes. And also, they might even adopt some of these individuals, some of these children from these homes. And also, they have also been looking for foster parents. So taking these children from the homes and fostering them, or taking them to these foster parents, or even adopted parents, or their grandparents. Yes. So this is how Zimbabwe have really tried to overcome the issue on institutionalization of these children. The way forward is prevention, and it is important to prevent children from becoming infected with HIV at birth and later on the life. How do we prevent this? We prevent this by educating these children on how to prevent themselves from HIV infection, and also make sure that those who are infected start ARVs as early as possible, are being taught on how to live a healthy life, a healthy lifestyle, away from drugs, away from, they're also given counseling if in case they're depressed or they have stress, because stress do not work well with ARVs. So they are normally trained, or they're educated on how to live a healthy lifestyle, taking drugs well, eating well, and many other things, in order for them to stay for longer before they develop into AIDS. So also, generally, preventing more people from becoming infected with HIV in the future, and care to prevent people from dying of AIDS, is essential. So we still need to educate people, not only children, but also other people, on how to live a healthy lifestyle, adhere to drug use, and avoid drugs, in order for them to live a healthy lifestyle. Then fewer children will be orphaned by HIV. A minute, please. So due to this, all those factors, fewer children will be orphaned by HIV. Once to take care of their parents, or once to educate their parents on how to live well and to live a longer life that is free from all these infections, then you're preventing all these infections affecting our children. when it comes to now the effect on these HIV on education sector, fewer children will receive a basic education because majority of them are in hospitals, majority of them are just at home because they're sick of this HIV infection. So you'll find fewer children going for even the primary school level. So you'll have majority of them not accessing the basic education. And a decline in school enrollment is one of the most visible effects of the epidemic, where if, for example, you have a sick child, you don't opt to go and take this child to the school. If at all they are very sick at home, you just stay with that child at home. So this will itself have an effect on HIV prevention, because remember, HIV prevention is normally nowadays taught at the very low level in our primary school. So if this child do not go to school, they will not be able to access that education on how to prevent HIV transmission. So as a good basic education rank among the most effective and cost-effective means of preventing HIV. So without education, AIDS will continue its rampant spread. So we still need a lot of this education, HIV and sexual education in our primary school, which is already ongoing. And I also think this education started a long time ago. So this education is really needed in these children in order for them to grow knowing that HIV can be transmitted from one person to the other. So with AIDS out of control, education will be out of reach. And this is according to Peter Piot. So this reduction in the number of children attending school will have a significant impact on the ability of many countries to achieve the education for all targets. So it's a target that people go to school and they get education, and this education helps them later in life. So if these children do not go to school, do not have or do not receive any education on prevention of HIV, they will also not get access to the basic education that they really need to use later in life. So why are fewer children attending school in Africa? Contributing factors includes, number one, removal of children from school to take care of the parents and members and family members. Number two, cause is inability to afford school fees and other expenses, merely because their parents are sick, their parents are hospitalized, their parents have already died, they're orphans. All those factors will cause inability to afford school fees. Then AIDS-related infertility and decline in birth rate, leading to fewer children in schools. So if you have a lot of infertility because of this AIDS-related or this opportunistic infection-related infertility, this causes a decline in birth rate. And when we don't have, we have a decline in birth rate, we do not have many children, and that will cause a decline in the number of children attending schools. Then another factor is more children are themselves infected and either do not live long enough to start school, or do not survive the school, do not survive the year of schooling. So number one, if the infected do not go to school, if they have already gone to the AIDS full-blown, majority of them will die. So majority of them will not be able to access schools. What about the impact of HIV on teachers? If a teacher is sick, number one, they will not be able to go to school. They will have a lot of absenteeism. They will take a lot of sick leaves and sick off to either go to attend funerals, or because they are either sick or they need to take care of their relatives who are maybe dying, or who are already sick. And this will not only affect this teacher physically, but will also affect this teacher psychologically. And once a teacher is affected psychologically, definitely do not be able to provide quality education to these children or to these pupils in their classes. So when a teacher fails ill, the class may be taken on by another teacher or may be combined with another class or just left untaught. What is the effect of, for example, in children who are at primary level? What do you think is the effect of changing teachers now and then? When you change teachers, the children, before even they aga well or they get along with this new teacher, already time have passed, and also the quality of the education they are receiving is also very poor, because children normally get or will receive information or will be more attentive to someone they are used to. So if they are changed, they're psychologically affected, and this may affect how they will perform in that class. If they are combined with other classes, definitely the quality of the education they receive will also be affected. If they are left untaught, this will also affect them in one way or another. But even when there is a sufficient supply of teachers to replace losses, there can be a significant impact on the student. I think I've already said this. So let's take an example. If, for example, you're being taught a specific unit by a lecturer or a teacher, and then all of a sudden, when you are halfway, the teacher goes and you're given another teacher. Before the teacher comes and get used to teaching you, they normally take a longer time. So time passes, and this will also affect your quality of education. Yeah, so that's the effect on or impact on teachers due to HIV infection. Then lastly, we have impact on life expectancy. I think you've already explained this in demographic effect of HIV, but you can still go through it. So in many countries of sub-Saharan Africa, AIDS is erasing decades of progress in extending life expectancy. What is life expectancy? The number of years you're expected to live in Kenya. Not in Kenya, you're expected to live. So it depends on which country you are, and the many other factors that normally affect life expectancy. So you'll find life expectancy in Kenya being different to life expectancy in Canada, life expectancy in USA. So depending on the level of maybe economic level of economic level of your country, the cultural effect can also affect the life expectancy of someone. Type of diseases you're suffering from will also affect the life expectancy. So in HIV and AIDS, normally affect in one way or another the average life expectancy. For example, the average life expectancy in sub-Saharan Africa is now 47 years, when it would have been 62 years without AIDS. So for someone who do not have this AIDS, is 62 years. But if you have AIDS, it's normally lowered to 47 years, sorry. So you have a difference of around 11 or so. Is it 11? It's around 15 years. Not 15, 26 years, a gap of 26 years between you and a person who have HIV infection. So as you can see, HIV normally declines the life expectancy or lowers the life expectancy of a person. So life expectancy at birth in Botswana has dropped to a level not seen in Botswana since 1950 in less than 10 years' time. So many country in Southern Africa will see life expectancy fall to near 30 levels not seen since the end of 19th century. So as you can see, it also depends on which country you're dealing with, but an average of 47 years is an average of all the sub-Saharan Africa. So you'll find in Kenya, it's around 50, 55 years. So it depending on which country you're dealing with, the life expectancy will change depending on which country and which part of the country you're dealing with. For example, you'll find life expectancy differing from maybe Turkana, Nairobi, Meru, Western. So depending on where you are and the condition you're living in, wherever you are, the life expectancy might change. So I think that will be the end of today's lecture, unless you have any part that you need clarification. So you can open your mic. I don't know what happened to my screen. I can't see well the text. I'm trying to work on it. So any question? You can open your mic. And for those who have not yet submitted your assignment, note that today's at 5. I'll not receive any other assignment. Assignment 1 deadline itafika 5. So after 5,